very special Saturday night edition of the Watchman Newscast live stream. Well, history was calling, and Donald J. Trump answered. President Trump tonight, just a short while ago, ordered U.S. bombers to strike 3 Iranian nuclear sites: Natanz, Isfahan, and the big one, folks, the hardest target of them all, the Fordow nuclear site. Now, Fordow, as we've discussed here in the live stream over the past few weeks, literally built underneath a mountain, 300 feet underground, heavily fortified. People said it was impenetrable. But then you have 30,000-pound U.S. bunker busting bombs, these massive ordnance penetrators, and they were used to great effect. Again, the news broke, I guess, around 8 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States in the middle of the night, 4 a.m. in the Middle East. At least 6, reportedly, of those massive ordnance penetrators, those massive bunker busting bombs, were dropped on Fordow, and Fordow reportedly is no more. A massive, if you've seen the video so far or the photos, a massive fireball lighting up the sky over what used to be Iran's most important nuclear site. It was a hidden site. It was exposed several years ago. Again, they thought this thing could not be hit, but Trump made a fateful decision. And look, I think Israel would have found a way at Fordow. I don't know how they would have done it, but listen, if you've seen anything over the past several months, you've seen that when it comes to daring military and intelligence operations, no one does it better than Israel. They make the improbable probable, and there are miraculous, and I don't use that word lightly, miraculous operations ongoing, and that we've seen over the past several months, really over the past several decades with Israel, but I digress. I think Israel could have found a way, perhaps with commando forces on the ground. I'm sure they had a means to maybe not completely obliterate Fordow, as the U.S. apparently just did, but to put it out of commission. And reportedly, Israeli leaders were saying to the Trump administration, look, we can't wait 2 weeks. You had that announcement from the White House on Thursday, 2 days ago, that President Trump would make a decision within 2 weeks. All the momentum had been building. I thought it may happen Thursday night, what we saw tonight. But again, I think this was a swerve. That's the word I've been using, in a wonderful way, a glorious way. We saw it in advance of Israel opening up Operation Rising Lion 9 days ago against Iran. On the surface, at least, there was reportedly tension between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. They weren't on the same page about Iran. Then all of a sudden, Iran was comfortable. Iran said, look, the great Satan, America, in their view, and the little Satan, Israel, they're not getting along. They're not going to strike us. We're good. And they were anything but. And Israel struck in the middle of the night. And President Trump the next morning said this was, quote, excellent. I knew about it all along, and we were closely coordinating with the Israelis all along. So publicly, it was a swerve to fool the Iranians, and it worked. And now we had it, I think, yet again. The statement from the White House, President Trump is an expert at keeping everyone on their toes. And when it comes to our enemies, especially, that's a great thing. So Iran, again, didn't know if or when it was coming. We had, over the past 48 hours, feverish negotiations between the Europeans and Iranian officials, and talk of maybe Steve Witkoff, President Trump's Middle East envoy, talking to the Iranians as well. And then a few hours ago, I saw this come across the wires. Iran's President Pezeshkian said, we will never give up our nuclear program. And I said, that's it. That's all President Trump had to hear. And a few hours after that, the bombs were dropping. But I think the die was cast again. I mean, days ago, despite the announcement from the White House on Thursday, days ago, President Trump knew he was going to do this, and he did it. And now, folks, we're in a new world. The world is a safer place. It's still a dangerous, chaotic, fallen, volatile world, but it's a bit safer tonight. And America is, and Israel is, the region is, the Middle East, the people of Iran, God willing, who are the main victims of this wicked, evil regime for the past 46 years. Now we see if the other shoe drops. The nuclear program, the Iranian nuclear menace, is over. And I'm sure if the regime stays intact, they'll try to rebuild it, but I don't think they'll get very far. The big question now, what happens to the regime? I want to talk about that in a minute. I also want to talk about, look, Fordo, the biggie, obviously, but look, Isfahan and Natanz, the other two major Iranian reactors, they were smashed tonight by some 30, at least, Tomahawk missiles fired by U.S. bombers. You didn't need the heavy payloads there that you needed, obviously, for Fordo. And by the way, Israel did a lot of the heavy lifting over the last 9 days at Isfahan and Natanz. But the Iranian nuclear program, for all intents and purposes, is absolutely now obliterated. And I think that President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu are two modern day Churchills. They are two Churchillian figures who saw the gathering storm, just as Churchill warned about the rise of Nazi Germany. Netanyahu 20 years ago, longer than that actually, was warning about the rise of a nuclear Iran, the growing Iranian menace, the Iranian axis, the ring of fire, the Shia crescent, jihadist crescent that was casting a shadow across the Middle East. Donald Trump, likewise, when he came down the escalator 10 years ago in New York, declared his candidacy for the presidency of the United States. From the get-go, he said, on my watch, Iran will never acquire a nuclear weapon. And he warned about it consistently over the years. Remember, 2015, that summer, a month after Trump declared his candidacy, July 2015, Barack Obama announced that disastrous Iran nuclear deal, which Trump later pulled out of. I say all that to say this: the Iranian regime, I mean, they had the wind at their backs. Their ring of fire was thriving and powerful. The Zionist entity was soon to be eliminated. And yet, how the tide has turned. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. We'll talk about that in a minute and what comes next. President Trump's going to be speaking shortly as well, so we're watching for that. In the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, breaking news, current events, mainly from Israel and the Middle East and how it affects you, but we cover the whole world, the whole geopolitical scene, and we do it from an unapologetically biblical perspective. Imagine that. If you like that, you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe. We've got nearly 1.1 million watchmen and women on the wall subscribing here with us. And click the notification bell as well, because I'm coming, man, like around the clock now, practically 7 days a week with everything happening in this time of war for such a time as this. Okay, what comes next? In the immediate aftermath, the dust is still settling. It appears again that Iran's nuclear program has now been completely obliterated. And Fordo, that was the big one, is now apparently destroyed. Thank you, President Trump. A modern day Churchill, as is Netanyahu. And I've compared them. You remember the 1980s with the Soviet menace. You had Thatcher, Reagan, Pope John Paul II working together to bring down the Soviet menace. And they did. Eventually, the wall fell. After Reagan left office, ironically enough, the wall fell in 89. The Soviet Union collapsed in 91. And now you have, in 2025, Bibi and Trump working together in tandem to bring down the Iranian menace, the Iranian axis. It's really amazing. But that's the comparison I make. Immediate aftermath, main concern. Number one, Iran's retaliation. You know it's likely coming, right? Although their missile barrages against Israel have slowed considerably over the past few days. Why is that? Because the Israeli Air Force has eliminated half of Iran's ballistic missile launchers and taken out a bunch of their ballistic missiles, the stockpiles on the ground. Amazing. Again, Operation Rising Lion is one for the history books that military analysts will be talking about years from now. So the ballistic missile threat is still serious, but Israel's made a massive dent in it. But Iran's most likely means of retaliation, number one, missile barrages against Israel. Number two, activating their proxies, in particular the Houthis, to bombard Israel. I don't know that Hezbollah wants to get involved. They haven't thus far. And that just shows you what a shell the Ring of Fire is now, folks, from what it was. I mean, Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza smashed. Hezbollah in Lebanon, I mean, smashed, licking its wounds. The Houthis have taken lumps. They can fire some missiles, but now they'll be cut off from Iran. Assad's gone in Syria. We haven't heard anything from those Shia militias in Iraq. The Ring of Fire is now a smoldering heap of ruins, thanks to Israel. And Iran's nuclear program is as well, thanks to Israel and, of course, the United States. But it's amazing to me because Iran spent decades building Hezbollah up for this moment. When our nuclear sites are struck, Hezbollah, we will unleash you in retaliation. I don't know that Hezbollah wants any of that smoke. and that they want to get involved in this fight. We'll see over the next 24 hours, most likely. So that's one means. Two, I should say, the ballistic missiles from Iran, drones as well, the proxies, what's left of the Ring of Fire. Of course, consulates, embassies, Israeli and Jewish targets around the world. That's a danger as well. They're threatened by Iranian operatives overseas. Then you have the threat of them striking at American bases in the Middle East. Major threat. And I think President Trump would unleash hell if that happens. And the Supreme Leader, I think, would be gone if that happens, eliminated. Then the fifth potential retaliation is, look, folks, I hate to say it, but there are likely Iranian/Hezbollah sleeper cells on American soil. And if there weren't before 2020, there certainly are now, thanks to Joe Biden throwing open America's southern border and letting millions upon millions of people coming in here unvetted from every corner of the world. So that's a problem. That's a potential issue. But, you know, the Trump administration did not do this rashly. They deliberated. So I'm sure they're prepared for any contingency. And the five potential retaliatory steps by Iran that I just outlined, certainly the Trump administration has mulled this over and prepared for them as well. And talk about deliberation. I mean, President Trump, for months, he tried to negotiate with Iran. He gave them 60 days. They didn't play ball. Day 61, the bombs were being dropped by Israel. So I just, what a blessing it is to have decisive, bold leadership in America and Israel right now. And together they're doing incredible things, Bibi and Trump, for the free world. But so the immediate aftermath, the 5 steps I just mentioned, the potential retaliatory means that Iran could use, God forbid, we pray against that, of course. The other big thing we're watching is the regime, the state of the Iranian regime. Does the Ayatollah survive this? If he does, I mean, I can't see the 86-year-old fanatic Ayatollah Khamenei surrendering unconditionally to the United States and Israel. I think he'd rather die than do that. He's a fanatical jihadist, demonic madman, and I think he'd rather go to his grave than do that. Is the Ayatollah toppled perhaps ideally by the Iranian people, the freedom-loving Iranian people? I think it's something like 70 or 80% of the Iranian population detests this regime and wants it gone. Remember, Iran, that was ancient Persia, modern-day Iran. It was a Bible land. Esther, Mordecai, Cyrus, Darius from your Bible. An amazing civilization, amazing culture and history. The Iranian people, many highly educated. So that is the prayer. The other possibility is Khamenei is overthrown by other radical elements in the regime. That's not a savory proposition. If, say, Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps jihadis overthrow Khamenei and take power, we don't know. It's all on the table now. And if you see jets flying out of Iran and the rats fleeing from the ship and the Iranian leadership fleeing, then there's no going back. You saw that what happened with Assad back in December. He fled Syria to Moscow, and there it was. His regime was over. So we may be witnessing the end of the Iranian regime. And we certainly are witnessing the end of Iran's nuclear menace, which is amazing. It's been compared to the Cuban Missile Crisis in slow motion. This has been 25 years. We've been talking about this, warning about this. Countdown to a nuclear Iran, 25 years. And now it's done like that in 9 days. Isn't it amazing? Same as Hamas, Hezbollah. For decades, Iran had built them up. Israel smashed them in short order. And this is a message also, folks, to Russia, China, North Korea, Erdogan and Turkey. The other tyrants and bad actors in the world are watching this. And if the U.S., I believe, would not have followed through here, it would have been a bad look for President Trump, for deterrence. It would have projected weakness. But he did what he needed to do. This was a threat not only for Israel. I mean, this regime was building and is, until further notice, intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs. They're not for Israel. They're not for the Middle East. They're not even for Europe. Those ICBMs are for America. They're designed to be mounted with a nuclear warhead and to travel across oceans, across continents. That threat was real. A nuclear Iran threatened the United States directly. And by the way, Iran has loads of American blood on its hands. I go back to the 1979 embassy takeover, of course, but 1983, the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, 241 U.S. Marines slaughtered by Iranian-backed jihadis. Look at Iraq. Between 2003, 2011, hundreds, if not thousands, of U.S. soldiers killed by Iranian-supplied roadside bombs. The list goes on. So this was a long time coming. President Trump did the right thing. He made history. And the world is now a safer place. And another thing to watch now, the Abraham Accords. And will you see now, very unlikely, I mean, Lebanon, Syria, Saudi Arabia, of course, we've been talking about that for a while. Lebanon, Syria, Saudi Arabia, perhaps even Indonesia, which is not in the Middle East, but is the world's most populous Muslim nation. They may all come to the table with Israel now and sign on to the Abraham Accords. It's a new Middle East. Anything is possible now. Thank you, number one, President Trump, for tonight and for doing what needed to be done. Thank you, Bibi Netanyahu, for the past year and a half, how you have systematically destroyed Iran and the Iranian regime and its ring of fire. So, folks, it's a good night for the free world, for freedom, and for peace. By the way, President Trump said, look, now perhaps we'll have peace now. Now's the time for peace. You've been defeated, Iran. You've been smashed. Now you better back up. If you're smart, if you know what's good for you. But I think the train may have left the station when it comes to the regime. That's what we'll be watching the next few days, and Iran's retaliation. We got a lot to talk about. So keep it right here. Be sure to subscribe. I got to run because I'm going on Fox News, let's see, between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. Eastern time here in the United States. So if you get Fox News, tune in. You'll see my mug popping up and breaking some of this down for the Fox News audience as well. And tomorrow night, TBN Live special I'm hosting at 8 p.m. Eastern. But a lot going on, a very busy time. But I do what I do for such a time as this. It goes without saying. God bless you all. Have a great night. Until tomorrow, remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.